Ba-da, ba-da, ba-da. Dun, dun. It's a raccoon with a talk show slinging culture facts you might not know. From the biggest flops to the greatest hits, this is Trash Can Tidbits.
Ahoy hoy everyone, I'm Beaton, and welcome back to Trash Can Tidbits. Last week I asked the trivia question, what was Divine's real name? The answer is Harris Glenn Milstead. Milstead was a childhood friend of John Waters, and he took up an interest in drag in the mid-1960s and took the stage name Divine and the label of the most beautiful woman in the world, almost. He went on to achieve a successful music career and starred in the majority of Waters' trashy underground films, where he achieved his now legendary bombastic drag persona. He tragically passed away in 1988, shortly after the release of Hairspray at the age of 42. And with that addressed, let's get started with fact number 1. Did you know that there were a number of songs that were written for Mary Poppins but were ultimately not used, but then later used in other Disney movies? 2 of them are particularly worth mentioning here. The Sherman brothers wrote a whole animated sequence called The Magic Compass, in which Mary Poppins spun the arrow on a compass and she and the children would be transported to various locales. One of these places was under the sea, and a song was to be sung called The Beautiful Briny Sea, which later got used in Bedknobs and Broomsticks, which ironically was initially developed as a Plan B film in case Poppins didn't get made. The second song for that sequence was to take place in the desert, and had a song called The Land of Sand. The whole Magic Compass sequence got taken out in the end, but the melody for Land of Sand was later used for the song Trust in Me from The Jungle Book. Fact 2. Did you know that the title sequence for the early seasons of NCIS features a location that really has nothing to do with the show? In the titles for the first few seasons of the show, there was a shot where an aircraft carrier is seen going underneath the Golden Gate Bridge, which is in San Francisco, and the show is set in Washington, D.C. That piece of footage was used from a movie called The Presidio, which starred main NCIS actor Mark Harmon as a police inspector investigating a murder at the Presidio Army Base in San Francisco. Fact 3. Did you know that a character in a Terminator movie was renamed because of an ongoing murder trial in real life? In Terminator 3: Rise of the Machines, Claire Danes' character's husband is named Scott Peterson. The movie was made at the height of the real-life Lacey Peterson murder trial in the early 2000s, in which her husband Scott was being convicted and eventually sentenced to death for killing her and their unborn child. The Scott character in the movie was subsequently renamed to Scott Mason, but the credits still erroneously list him as Scott Peterson. Fact 4. Did you know that Chris Tucker's Michael Jackson impressions in Rush Hour were initially criticized by Jackson himself? After the release of the first Rush Hour, Chris Tucker's Michael Jackson's movements got his attention, and he called him out to tell him that he kicked with the wrong leg, but otherwise loved the movie. Interestingly enough, 3 years after the first movie, Tucker would co-star alongside Michael Jackson in his music video, You Rock My World. Tucker also continued to do Jackson impersonations in the Rush Hour sequels. Fact 5. Did you know that horror icon George Romero was involved in a live-action Resident Evil project? He was hired by Capcom to work on 2 live-action commercials for Resident Evil 2. The commercials notably starred the late Brad Renfro of Tom and Huck and Apt Pupil fame as Leon Kennedy, and The Bold and the Beautiful's Adrienne France as Claire Redfield. Based on the success of these commercials, Romero was a natural first choice to make a Resident Evil movie, and got as far as pre-production before the studio ultimately passed in favor of the series we eventually got from director Paul W.S. Anderson and star Milla Jovovich. Fact 6. Did you know that there was a TV series centered around young Indiana Jones? The show, The Young Indiana Jones Chronicles, which aired between 1992 and 1993, starred Sean Patrick Flannery in place of River Phoenix as the title character. The episodes originally aired with actor George Gray as an elderly Indy telling people about his various adventures as a child and a teenager and meeting up with various historical figures. One episode, though, had Harrison Ford himself doing the episode bookends. The episode Mystery of the Blues, in which he gets to meet famous jazz musicians Louis Armstrong and Sidney Bechet. Though Ford's intro remains on the DVD box set, the bookends with Gray as the old Indy have been taken out, and I really don't know why. Fact 7. Did you know that the joke character Dan Hibiki from the Street Fighter games was a jab at Capcom's rival SNK? Both companies made fighting games throughout the 90s, and each game they made had characters that poked jabs at the other's franchises. Dan was created for the game Street Fighter Alpha as a parody of characters Ryo Sakazaki and Robert Garcia from SNK's Art of Fighting series. Dan's popularity, I guess you could say, has since rubbed off on Capcom, as he's appeared in other entries and has remained a butt of a joke character ever since. Fact 8. Did you know that action star Jet Li did a martial arts demonstration for President Richard Nixon when he was a child? In the early 70s, Li, as a student of the Chinese national wushu team, performed for Nixon in Washington, D.C. Nixon was so impressed with the young boy's skills that he asked if he could be his personal bodyguard. Now, I'm sure the inquiry was a joke on the former president's part, but in either case, Li turned down the offer, saying that he would rather use his skills to protect his countrymen. Fact 9. Did you know that legendary jazz pianist Fats Waller only made appearances in 3 feature films? The one that bears special mention is 1943's Stormy Weather, which was made at a time when black entertainers rarely appeared in movies, let alone in leading roles. In the film, Waller performs his signature song, Ain't Misbehavin'. Tragically, sometime after finishing the film, he contracted pneumonia while on train travel from California to New York and passed away at the age of 39. A musical/tribute was later compiled of his greatest hits, which is fittingly titled Ain't Misbehavin', which continues to enjoy great success today. Fact 10. Did you know that British actor Alfred Molina, best known for playing Dr. Octopus in Spider-Man 2, made his film debut in Raiders of the Lost Ark? He was primarily a stage actor before he auditioned for Steven Spielberg to play the part of Satipo, the guide who accompanies Indiana Jones in the temple at the beginning of the movie. Apparently, his very first day on set and his first experience on camera was him being covered with tarantulas. Jeez, after hearing of all the physical things I read about behind the scenes, Spielberg really does like to put the actors in the most compromising situations, doesn't he? And here's this week's trivia question. Michael J. Fox was always the first choice to play Marty McFly in Back to the Future, but the scheduling of his TV show Family Ties wouldn't let him do it. So director Robert Zemeckis and writer Bob Gale went off in search of another actor, and they were able to film with this particular actor for a few weeks before it was decided he wasn't right for the role. My question to you is, which actor was originally chosen to replace Michael J. Fox in Back to the Future? And there we go for this week. I hope you like this list, and please stay tuned for more. And don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and ring the bell for future notifications. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.